The unexpected client. Raven Blackwood's wrench slipped from her oil-stained fingers as the entire repair bay shuddered. The massive freighter in Dock 3 was having its gravitational stabilizers replaced, and every adjustment sent tremors through Station Helios 9's infrastructure. She cursed under her breath, fishing the tool from beneath a workbench. Nova, status report on the quantum calibrator. She called out to her workshop's AI system. Calibration at 87%, Raven. Estimated completion in 20 minutes. The AI responded in its characteristically smooth tone. The repair bay was Raven's sanctuary, a cluttered paradise of spare parts and half-finished projects. Holographic diagrams floated in the air, displaying schematics for everything from mining drones to starship engines. The smell of plasma coolant and machine oil hung thick in the air, a scent she'd grown to love over her 15 years as a mechanic. The workshop's entrance chime rang, its soft tone nearly lost in the mechanical symphony of the bay. "We're closed," Raven called out without looking up from her work. "Emergency repairs start again at 600 station time." No response came, but she could feel someone's presence. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Slowly, she turned around. A figure stood in the doorway, easily 7 feet tall, encased in armor unlike anything Raven had ever seen. The plating seemed to shift colors like oil on water, from deep purple to midnight blue, with strange geometric patterns etched into its surface that seemed to move when she wasn't looking directly at them. The helmet was smooth and featureless, save for a thin horizontal visor that emitted a soft, pulsing light. "Your reputation precedes you, Raven Blackwood." The figure spoke, its voice carrying an otherworldly resonance that seemed to echo from everywhere and nowhere at once. "They say you can fix what others declare beyond repair." Raven straightened up, wiping her hands on her coveralls. "Depends who's asking and what needs fixing. You're not from around here, are you?" The armored figure took 3 measured steps into the workshop. With each movement, Raven could hear a subtle whine of servos and what sounded like crystalline chimes. "I am from very far away. My armor requires repairs of a most urgent nature." "Nova, scan our visitor," Raven commanded quietly. Unable to comply, the AI responded, an edge of confusion in its synthetic voice. "The armor appears to be deflecting all standard scanning methods." The figure reached up to its helmet, pressing something at its base. With a soft hiss and a shimmer of energy, the helmet began to retract, revealing a face that made Raven's breath catch in her throat. The being before her was humanoid, but clearly alien. Its skin was a deep indigo, marked with luminescent patterns that shifted like constellations. Instead of hair, delicate crystalline formations swept back from its temples, catching and refracting the workshop's lights. Its eyes were the most striking feature, completely silver, with no visible pupils, yet somehow conveying both ancient wisdom and urgent desperation. "I am Philira," the alien said, her true voice musical and clear without the helmet's modulation. "And I need your help to prevent a catastrophe that threatens not just your world, but countless others." Raven found herself torn between professional fascination with the advanced technology before her and a growing realization that she was about to be pulled into something far more dangerous than a simple repair job. "The armor's damage," Philira continued, gesturing to scorch marks and what looked like claw marks across her left side, "is more than cosmetic. Its quantum shielding is failing, and without it, they will find me. And if they find me, everything I've sacrificed to get here will be for nothing." "They?" Raven asked, already reaching for her advanced diagnostic tools. "The Void Hunters," Philira replied, her silver eyes darkening. "They serve a power that would see the galaxy remade in their image, no matter the cost in lives or worlds destroyed." Raven ran her hand along the armor's surface, feeling the strange metal react to her touch, almost like it was alive. "This isn't like anything I've worked on before, but—" She paused, a slight smile crossing her face. "That's never stopped me before." How long do we have? Until local dawn, Thalira answered. After that, this station will no longer be safe for either of us. The workshop's lights flickered as another tremor ran through the station. Raven glanced at her tools, then at the mysterious warrior before her. She knew saying yes meant stepping into a world of danger she deliberately avoided all these years. But the engineer in her couldn't resist the challenge, and something in Thalira's silver eyes told her this was more important than playing it safe. Well then, Raven said, picking up her most advanced diagnostic scanner, we better get started. Nova, initiate Protocol Midnight, full workshop lockdown, and route all power to the containment field. Something tells me we're going to need the privacy. As the workshop's security measures engaged and the real work began, Raven couldn't shake the feeling that by the time the station's artificial dawn arrived, her life would never be the same again. Secrets of the Stars. Raven's hands moved with practiced precision across Thalira's armor, which now lay spread across her primary workbench in sections. The quantum diagnostic array hummed softly as it analyzed the alien technology, displaying results that simultaneously fascinated and confused her. This isn't just armor, is it? Raven murmured, studying a section that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. It's more like a living thing. Thalira stood nearby, wearing a form-fitting undersuit that seemed woven from starlight. It is a sentinel's crown, she explained, her silver eyes reflecting the workshop's holographic displays. Created using technology from an age when my people, the Luminary, were at their height. We merged organic crystal matrices with quantum-enabled metals to create protective shells that became extensions of our consciousness. And now you're the last one, Raven said softly, remembering Thalira's earlier words about sacrifice. The alien warrior's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. The last sentinel, yes, the Void Hunters made sure of that. Thalira approached the workbench, running her fingers along the armor's surface. But they failed to find what I carried away from our falling world. Nova's interface pulsed with sudden alarm. Raven, detecting unusual energy signatures from sublevel 3. Pattern matches known Void Hunter signatures from the station's warning database. They're here. Thalira's voice was tight with tension. Sooner than I expected. Raven's fingers flew across her diagnostic panel. The quantum shielding is only at 60%. We need at least 80 for full stealth capabilities. She looked up at Thalira. I need to know what we're really dealing with here. What did you take from your world? Thalira held Raven's gaze for a long moment before reaching into a hidden compartment in her undersuit. She withdrew a crystal that seemed to contain a universe in miniature, swirling galaxies, and nebulae dancing within its faceted surface. This is the heart of memory, Thalira explained. It contains not just the technical specifications of the weapon the Void Hunters used to destroy my world, but proof of their ultimate plan. She placed the crystal in Raven's palm. They call it Project Eclipse, a way to harvest the very essence of entire civilizations, converting living beings into energy to power their expansion across the universe. Raven stared at the crystal, its weight in her hand belying the horrific knowledge it contained. And Earth, my people, high on their list of targets, Thalira confirmed. Your species' potential for adaptation and innovation makes you both a threat and a valuable resource in their eyes. The workshop's security system pinged again. Nova's voice was urgent. Multiple signatures now detected on sublevel 2. They're moving methodically, searching each sector. Raven turned back to the armor, her movements now charged with renewed purpose. I might have a way to boost the quantum shielding, but it's risky. We'd have to redirect power from the armor's offensive systems. Do it, Thalira commanded. The heart of memory must reach the resistance. Without weapons, we still have a chance. Without stealth, we have none. As Raven worked, Thalira explained more about the resistance, a loose coalition of species who had discovered the Void Hunters' true nature and fought from the shadows to oppose them. Led by an enigmatic figure known only as the Starkiller, they had operations scattered across multiple sectors of space. The nearest resistance cell is in the Echoes of Dawn system, Thalira said, helping Raven reconnect a particularly complex series of crystal matrices. If we can reach them, they have the resources to analyze the heart's data and begin developing countermeasures. We? Raven asked, raising an eyebrow as she sealed another connection. You've seen the heart's contents now, Thalira replied grimly. The Void Hunters will assume you know too much. Your life on this station ended the moment I walked through your door. Before Raven could respond, the entire workshop plunged into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in a blood-red glow. Nova? Raven called out. Station power grid is being systematically disabled, the AI reported. They're cutting off all escape routes. Raven's mind raced through possibilities. The maintenance tunnels, they connect to the private docking bays. I have a ship, the Starcutter. She's small, but she's fast and her registration numbers are flexible. A smuggler's vessel, Thalira observed, no judgment in her tone. Freelance procurement specialist, Raven corrected with a slight smile, making the final adjustments to the armor. Quantum shielding at 78%. It'll have to do. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the corridor outside. Thalira quickly began redonning her armor, each piece connecting with a soft chime. Raven gathered essential tools and data cores, stuffing them into a worn backpack. They're not just here for me anymore, Thalira said as her helmet sealed into place, her voice once again carrying that otherworldly resonance. If they discover your connection to the Resistance, they'll tear this station apart looking for other sympathizers. Raven activated a hidden panel in the workshop's floor, revealing a narrow maintenance shaft. Then let's make sure they're too busy chasing us to hurt anyone else. She paused, looking at the workshop that had been her home for so many years. I always wanted to see more of the galaxy. I just didn't expect it to happen quite like this. The stars call to all of us differently, Thalira replied, her armored form somehow graceful as she prepared to enter the shaft. Today they call us to war. As they descended into the maintenance tunnels, leaving behind the life Raven had built, she clutched the pack containing her tools close. She might not be a warrior like Thalira, but every war needed engineers. And if the Void Hunters wanted to destroy everything she'd ever known, they were about to learn just how dangerous a determined mechanic could be. The Great Escape. The maintenance tunnels of Station Helios 9 were a maze of pipes, conduits, and narrow passages that most inhabitants never knew existed. For Raven, they had been a second home, routes carefully mapped during years of creative equipment acquisition. Now those same paths might save their lives. 3 levels down, 2 sections forward, Raven whispered, leading Thalira through the darkness. The alien warrior moved with uncanny silence despite her armor, the quantum shielding making her form slightly blurry to the eye. Nova's voice came through Raven's personal communicator, barely audible. Void Hunter forces have sealed off all main corridors on levels 5 through 8. They're using some kind of energy detection grid I've never seen before. Can you access the station's security feeds? Raven asked, pausing at an intersection. Limited access. They're systematically overriding station systems, but I've managed to maintain a partial connection. Warning, they're deploying something into the ventilation system. Appears to be sensor drones. Thalira's helmet turned sharply. Seekers. They can detect the quantum resonance of luminary technology, even through shielding. We need to move faster. They quickened their pace, descending through access shafts and crawling through maintenance ducts. Above them, the sounds of the Void Hunter's search grew louder. Heavy footsteps, alien commands in guttural languages, and the occasional scream from station inhabitants who got in their way. The Starcutters in Private Bay 12, Raven said as they reached the lower levels. It's isolated from the main docking network, with its own power supply and launch systems. A high-pitched whine filled the air. making Raven's teeth ache. Tiny spherical drones, no larger than her fist, began pouring through the ventilation grates. Their surfaces rippled with dark energy, and they moved with awful purpose. "Run," Falira commanded, her armor's remaining weapon systems powering up with a distinctive hum. "I'll hold them off." Like hell, Raven grabbed Falira's arm. "I've got a better idea." She pulled a small device from her pack, a prototype shield harmonics scrambler she'd been developing. "If I can match the frequency of your armor's quantum field." Understanding flickered in Falira's silver eyes, visible through her helmet's visor. It might create a feedback loop in their detection systems. Raven worked quickly, connecting the device to a port in Falira's armor. The Seekers drew closer, their whine becoming deafening. With a final adjustment, Raven activated the scrambler. The effect was immediate. The Seekers' precise formations dissolved into chaos, the drones colliding with each other and the tunnel walls. Some exploded in showers of sparks, while others went dark and clattered to the floor. "Impressive," Falira said, genuine admiration in her voice. "I spent years studying quantum field interactions," Raven replied as they resumed their rush toward the docking bay. "Never thought I'd be using that knowledge to fight killer robots." They reached the final junction before the private docking sector. Nova's voice crackled through once more. "Multiple Void Hunter signatures converging on your position. They've adapted to the quantum disruption." The station's emergency lighting flickered ominously. Through the walls, they could hear the deep thrumming of massive energy weapons powering up. The hunters were done playing carefully. "They're going to start breaking the station apart to find us," Raven realized. "All these people, which is why we must give them a target they can't resist," Falira said. She reached into a compartment in her armor and withdrew the heart of memory. "The quantum signature of this crystal is unique. If we amplify it, they'll focus everything on us," Raven finished. She quickly modified her scrambler, reversing its function to boost the crystal's output instead of masking it. "Nova, initiate protocol exodus. Trigger emergency evacuation alerts in all civilian sectors." Alert protocols engaged, the AI confirmed. Station security forces are beginning to coordinate civilian movement toward emergency shelters. They reached the entrance to Bay 12 just as alarms began blaring throughout the station. Raven's fingers flew across the security panel, inputting override codes while Falira stood guard. The massive door slid open, revealing the Starcutter, a sleek vessel about 60 meters long, its hull decorated with intricate patterns that helped break up sensor profiles. It wasn't pretty, but it was fast, and more importantly, heavily modified for exactly this type of situation. "Multiple hostiles approaching," Nova warned. 90 seconds until contact." They sprinted for the ship's entry ramp. Inside, Raven headed straight for the cockpit, while Falira took up a defensive position by the airlock. "Nova, transfer to ship systems," Raven commanded, her hands dancing across the controls. The Starcutter's engines hummed to life, power building in its modified drive core. "Transfer complete. Station defenses are actively being compromised. We have perhaps 2 minutes before they gain control of the emergency containment fields." The first Void Hunter appeared in the bay entrance, a massive figure in obsidian armor, its helmet reminiscent of ancient death masks. Energy weapons glowed with sickly green light in its grasp. "Hold on to something," Raven called out. She slammed her hand down on a very special button she'd installed years ago, one that overrode every safety protocol in the docking bay systems. The massive outer doors exploded outward, atmosphere rushing into space with hurricane force. The Void Hunters, caught off guard, were swept off their feet. The Starcutter's landing gear released, and Raven fired the maneuvering thrusters, sending them shooting out of the bay like a bullet from a gun. "Multiple pursuit craft launching," Nova reported as they cleared the station, detecting energy weapons charging. "Let them try to keep up," Raven said, a fierce grin spreading across her face as she pushed the Starcutter's engines to full power. Stars blurred around them as they accelerated to speeds that would have torn apart a standard ship of this size. Thalira made her way to the cockpit, watching the sensor displays as more Void Hunter vessels poured out of the station. "You've done this before." "Let's just say this isn't my first hasty departure," Raven replied, executing a series of evasive maneuvers. "Though it's definitely the most exciting. Nova, plot a course to the echoes of Dawn's system. Let's introduce your Resistance friends to their newest recruits." As they prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel, Raven spared one last look at Station Helios 9, growing smaller behind them. She'd lost her home and her business, but she'd gained something else, a chance to fight for not just her own world, but countless others. "You know," she said to Thalira as the stars stretched into lines around them, "when I woke up this morning, I really wasn't expecting to join an interstellar resistance movement." "The greatest journeys," Thalira replied, her silver eyes reflecting the light of their faster-than-light passage, "often begin with the most unexpected steps." Underground resistance. The echoes of Dawn's system lived up to its name. 3 suns in varying stages of life cast overlapping shadows across the asteroid field where the resistance had made their hidden base. The star cutter wove through the debris with precise movements, following encrypted navigation beacons that pulsed with barely detectable quantum signatures. "How exactly does a mechanic learn to fly like this?" Thalira asked, watching Raven guide the ship through a particularly narrow gap between 2 massive asteroids. "Practice," Raven replied, her focus intense, "and a lot of expensive mistakes when I was younger." "Nova, status on our pursuit." "No Void Hunter signatures detected within 3 light years," the AI reported. However, their search pattern suggests they're systematically mapping possible escape vectors from Helios 9. A massive asteroid ahead of them suddenly shimmered, its surface rippling like water. As they approached, a hidden docking bay was revealed, carved directly into the rock. Advanced stealth systems masked its presence from any conventional scanning methods. "Welcome to Echo Base," Thalira said softly, "one of the last safe havens in this sector of space." The docking procedure was automated, their ship guided into a vast cavern where dozens of other vessels were moored. Raven noticed that many of them bore battle damage, some with weapon systems far more advanced than anything she'd seen in civilian space. As they disembarked, they were met by a diverse group of beings. Some were clearly human. Others belonged to species Raven had never encountered before. All carried themselves with the alert readiness of veteran fighters. At their head stood a tall figure who commanded immediate attention. Her skin was a deep bronze, marked with cybernetic enhancements that pulsed with subtle light. One eye was entirely mechanical, scanning constantly, while the other was a striking amber. She wore armor that seemed to be a hybrid of multiple technological styles, both elegant and lethal. "Commander Zara." Thalira inclined her head respectfully. "The Starkiller sent me." "Sentinel Thalira." Zara's voice was rich and carried authority. "We received word of the fall of your world. I'm glad to see at least one luminary warrior survived." Her cybernetic eye focused on Raven. "And this is?" "Raven Blackwood," Thalira answered before Raven could speak. "A mechanic and engineer who has proven herself invaluable. She helped me escape the Void Hunters and has insights into quantum field manipulation that could be crucial to our cause." Zara studied Raven intently. "A mechanic who can outmaneuver Void Hunter pursuit ships and bypass their sensor nets. Interesting." She gestured for them to follow. "Come. The Starkiller will want to hear your report immediately." They were led deeper into the asteroid base, through corridors that merged natural rock with advanced technology. Resistance fighters of various species worked at monitoring stations, maintained weapons, and studied tactical displays showing movement patterns across multiple sectors of space. "How many?" Raven asked quietly. "Here. About 300, Zara replied. "Across all our cells. Thousands, but it's not enough. Not against what we're facing." She paused before a massive door, marked with symbols from dozens of different civilizations. The star color is waiting. The chamber beyond was dimly lit, dominated by a massive holographic display of the known galaxy. Standing before it was a figure that made Raven catch her breath. He appeared human at first glance, but there was an otherworldly quality to his presence. His skin seemed to shift colors like cosmic gases, and his eyes held the light of distant stars. "Welcome, last sentinel." The Starcolor's voice resonated with strange harmonics. "Show me what you carried from your falling world." Thalira withdrew the heart of memory, its crystal surface gleaming. She placed it in a receptacle near the galaxy map, and immediately the holographic display transformed. Technical specifications for Project Eclipse filled the air around them, along with targeting data for hundreds of worlds. By the void, Zara breathed. The scale of their plan. "They mean to harvest the life force of entire civilizations," the Starkiller said grimly, "converting conscious energy into fuel for their expansion. Earth, the luminary worlds, the Concordiate systems, all to be consumed." Raven stepped forward, studying the technical data with an engineer's eye. "These energy conversion matrices, they're similar to the quantum field technology in Thalira's armor, but twisted, corrupted. They stole our science." Thalira's voice was tight with anger. "Perverted it into a weapon of mass extinction. And that may be their weakness," Raven continued, her mind racing. "The quantum harmonics they're using to contain and convert life energy. They're unstable. If we could introduce a cascading resonance pattern at just the right frequency." The Starkiller turned his cosmic gaze upon her. "You understand these principles." "I spent years studying quantum field interactions," Raven explained. "It started as a way to improve ship engines, but the principles are the same. Energy is energy, whether you're containing it in a drive core or," she gestured to the horrific specifications floating before them, "trying to harvest it from living beings." "Show me," the Starkiller commanded. For the next hour, Raven broke down the technical flaws she saw in Project Eclipse's design. The Void Hunters had built their weapon on stolen understanding, missing crucial elements of how quantum fields truly interacted. With each point she made, the Resistance leaders' interest grew. "We could turn their own weapon against them," Zara said finally. "Create a feedback loop that would destroy their containment systems." "Not from out here," Raven cautioned. "We'd need to get inside their main facility. Based on these power requirements, there's only one place they could be building something this massive. The Apex," Thalira said quietly. "Their fortress at the heart of the Null Zone. No one has ever successfully infiltrated it." The Starcolor's form seemed to pulse with inner light. No one has ever had both luminary stealth technology and an engineer who understands the quantum principles behind it. He focused on Raven. "You would need to modify Thalira's armor, create a way to mask both of you from their detection systems." "I would need better equipment than what I have on my ship," Raven said, "and access to any technical data you have on Void Hunter detection methods." "You shall have all we can provide," the Starkiller assured her. "Commander Zara will see to it." He turned to Thalira. "Are you prepared to return to combat so soon after your world's fall?" Thalira's silver eyes flashed. "I am prepared to ensure no other worlds share our fate." "Then we have hope," the Starkiller said. "But we must move quickly. The Void Hunters grow closer to completing Project Eclipse with each passing day. Raven Blackwood, are you willing to risk everything to stop them?" Raven looked at Thalira, remembering the warrior's courage in her workshop just days ago. She thought of Earth, of all the worlds marked for harvesting, of the billions of lives hanging in the balance. "I'm just a mechanic," she said with a slight smile. "But sometimes the biggest problems need the simplest solutions. When do we start?" Final gambit. The Apex lived up to its name. A massive structure of impossible geometry, it hung in the void at the heart of Void Hunter space like a dark star. No conventional sensors could penetrate its outer defenses, and its very presence seemed to distort the fabric of reality around it. "Ready?" Raven asked, making final adjustments to Thalira's modified armor. They stood in the cargo hold of a captured Void Hunter supply ship, preparing for their infiltration attempt. The modifications are holding, Thalira confirmed. The armor now pulsed with a deeper energy, its quantum shielding enhanced by Raven's understanding of harmonics and the Resistance's advanced technology. Our signatures are perfectly matched to their supply vessels. Nova, status report. Raven touched the neural interface now integrated into her own stealth suit, not as advanced as Thalira's armor, but capable of maintaining the same quantum frequency. Supply ship's transponder codes are synchronized with Apex control. The AI responded through their secure channel. Commander Zara's distraction force is in position in the Xerxes sector. We have approximately 6 hours before the Void Hunters realized this ship's codes were stolen. Raven took a deep breath, checking her tools one final time. The infiltration plan was elegant in its simplicity. Use the supply ship's legitimate codes to dock with the Apex, then make their way to Project Eclipse's main control center using the modified quantum signatures to avoid detection. Once there, Raven would implement the resonance cascade that would turn the Void Hunter's own weapon against them. Final gambit. The Apex lived up to its name. A massive structure of impossible geometry, it hung in the void at the heart of Void Hunter space like a dark star. No conventional sensors could penetrate its outer defenses, and its very presence seemed to distort the fabric of reality around it. Ready? Raven asked, making final adjustments to Thalira's modified armor. They stood in the cargo hold of a captured Void Hunter supply ship, preparing for their infiltration attempt. The modifications are holding, Thalira confirmed. The armor now pulsed with a deeper energy, its quantum shielding enhanced by Raven's understanding of harmonics and the Resistance's advanced technology. Our signatures are perfectly matched to their supply vessels. Nova, status report. Raven touched the neural interface now integrated into her own stealth suit, not as advanced as Thalira's armor, but capable of maintaining the same quantum frequency. Supply ship's transponder codes are synchronized with Apex control. The AI responded through their secure channel. Commander Zara's distraction force is in position in the Xerxes sector. We have approximately 6 hours before the Void Hunters realized this ship's codes were stolen. Raven took a deep breath, checking her tools one final time. The infiltration plan was elegant in its simplicity. Use the supply ship's legitimate codes to dock with the Apex, then make their way to Project Eclipse's main control center using the modified quantum signatures to avoid detection. Once there, Raven would implement the resonance cascade that would turn the Void Hunter's own weapon against them. Simple, right? The Apex's docking control hailed them. Raven held her breath as their forged credentials were scanned. After what felt like an eternity, they were granted clearance to dock in the lower supply vase. Remember, Thalira said as they prepared to disembark, we'll be able to move freely as long as we maintain the quantum harmonic sync. If our signatures drift even slightly out of alignment, every Void Hunter in the station will know we're here, Raven finished. No pressure. They moved through the Apex's corridors like ghosts. Raven's modifications to their quantum signatures made them register as part of the station's background energy field, invisible to both sensors and the naked eye. Around them, Void Hunter crews went about their duties, unaware of the infiltrators in their midst. The deeper they went into the station, the more evidence they saw of Project Eclipse's horrific scale. Massive energy conduits pulsed with stolen life force. Holding cells contained captured beings from dozens of species, waiting to be processed. Raven's hands tightened on her tools, every engineer's instinct screaming at the perverted use of technology. Nova, she subvocalized through the neural link. Can you locate the main control center? Analyzing energy flows. The AI responded. The highest concentration of quantum activity is 3 levels up, central hub. Warning. Detecting unusual power fluctuations. They may be preparing for a test firing. We need to hurry, Thalira said, her silver eyes visible through her helmet's visor. If they activate the main harvesting array. They quickened their pace, using maintenance shafts and service corridors to avoid the increasingly dense Void Hunter patrols. The closer they got to the control center, the more heavily guarded the station became. Finally, they reached their target, a massive chamber dominated by a crystalline structure that pulsed with dark energy. Void Hunter technicians moved around its base, making adjustments and monitoring readings. "That's the quantum core," Raven whispered, analyzing the setup. "If I can access the main control interface, I can introduce the cascade sequence." "How long will you need?" 5 minutes to bypass their security, another 3 to upload the modified resonance pattern. After that, Raven managed a grim smile. "Physics will do the rest." They were about to move forward when alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. A massive holographic display activated, showing a space battle raging in the Xerxes sector. The Resistance's distraction attack was underway, but something had gone wrong. "Imperial Command," a Void Hunter officer announced, "Resistance forces are employing some kind of new quantum disruption weapon. Multiple Hunter-class vessels have been disabled. They're using my harmonic scrambler design," Raven realized. "But that means—" She looked down at her quantum signature readings, now fluctuating wildly. "They'll be scanning for similar signatures here." As if on cue, detection alerts began screaming across the control center's monitors. Their cover was blown. "Do what you must," Thalira said, her armor's weapon systems activating. "I'll hold them off." The next few minutes were chaos. Raven sprinted for the quantum core's control interface, while Thalira engaged the Void Hunter security forces. The alien warrior was magnificent in battle, her enhanced armor allowing her to fight with impossible speed and grace. Raven's fingers flew across the interface, bypassing security systems and diving deep into Project Eclipse's core programming. Around her, energy weapons fire and the sound of combat filled the air. She could feel their quantum signatures destabilizing, the harmonic sync failing. "Nova, upload the cascade sequence." "Uploading," the AI confirmed. "Warning, detecting multiple quantum signatures converging on our position. High-level Void Hunter commanders incoming." "How much longer?" Thalira called out, her armor showing signs of damage, despite its enhanced shielding. 2 minutes, Raven answered, watching the progress indicators with growing anxiety. "We need to maintain the quantum sync just a little longer." The chamber's main doors exploded inward. 3 massive figures entered, Void Hunter Primarchs, their armor crackling with corrupted energy. They moved with terrible purpose toward Thalira. "The last sentinel," one of them growled, voice like grinding stone. "Your interference ends here." "Raven," Thalira said calmly, facing the Primarchs, "remember what I taught you about luminary battle meditation. Now would be the time." Raven closed her eyes for a moment, remembering the techniques Thalira had shared during their preparation. She let her consciousness align with the quantum fields around them, feeling the flow of energy through the station. When she opened her eyes, time seemed to move differently. She could see the patterns in the chaos, the way the quantum fields interconnected, the harmonics that bound everything together, including one crucial weakness. "Thalira, your armor's quantum core. Link it to the main array." The luminary warrior understood immediately. As the Primarchs attacked, she established a direct connection between her armor's power source and Project Eclipse's quantum core. Pure luminary energy flowed into the corrupted system. "Cascade sequence at 80%, Nova announced. But the power readings are becoming unstable." "That's the point," Raven said, making final adjustments. "Sometimes you have to break something completely to fix it." The quantum core began to pulse erratically, its dark energy reacting violently with the pure luminary power. The Primarchs faltered, sensing something was wrong. "Now, Nova, execute full cascade." Everything happened at once. The quantum core erupted with blinding light as the cascade sequence triggered. Harmonics that were never meant to exist tore through the Apex's systems. The Void Hunters' corrupted technology, unable to handle the pure quantum frequencies, began to tear itself apart. "We need to go." Thalira grabbed Raven, her armor's emergency teleportation systems engaging. Now, they materialized back on their supply ship, just as the cascade reached critical mass. Through the viewport, they watched as the impossible geometries of the apex began to collapse in on themselves, consumed by the very energies the Void Hunters had tried to control. "Nova, get us out of here," Raven commanded, rushing to the ship's controls. They jumped to lightspeed moments before the quantum detonation reached them, the shockwave barely missing their stern. Hours later, safely regrouped with the Resistance fleet, Raven stood with Thalira watching the long-range sensors track the aftermath of their mission. The apex was gone, and with it the heart of the Void Hunters' power. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy of their forces falling into disarray. "So," Raven said, looking at the warrior who had walked into her workshop and changed her life forever, "what does a mechanic do after helping save the galaxy?" Thalira's silver eyes held a hint of amusement. "There are many worlds out there, Raven Blackwood. Many people who could use someone with your particular talents. And," she added, gesturing to her battle-damaged armor, "I find myself in frequent need of repairs." Raven smiled, already thinking about the modifications she could make to the quantum systems. "Well, I hear the best adventures start with a simple repair job." As they plotted a course to the next system that needed their help, Raven reflected that sometimes the greatest journeys in life began with someone walking through your door with a broken piece of equipment. She wouldn't have it any other way.